Alright, how's it going, my magnificent sons of bitches? And it looks like I finally got my Facebook connected to the StreamYard again. So I'll be streaming on both platforms, both Facebook and YouTube's. The platforms that are, kind of dying off a little bit. There's not a lot of reaction on either one of them anymore. This is not to include Twitter. So I've RSVP'd for the little Trump rally that they're having here in Waco. I figure I'll go ahead and go there and basically use this time to go ahead and troll people that are in the mainstream media that are, tend to be a little bit more left wing. They'll come up and try to paint me as some sort of racist, some sort of bigot, some sort of homophobe, and some sort of new KKK. It's basically what the left does. Nobody really pays attention to them anymore. They have no audience. Whenever you go back and, like I said in the previous videos that I've done, you can go check them out on my YouTube page. That really at the end of the day, only 6% of the population pays attention to media narratives, and only 23% of that 6% actually give any kind of credibility to mainstream media. So essentially, only about 1.5% of the United States has any real confidence in the mainstream media enough to move any narrative, which really at the end of the day isn't enough to move a narrative. So I figured I would RSVP for this Waco, Texas event, one of the rallies that Trump is going to do. That's going to be here in Waco, and of course he's supposed to be arrested on Tuesday, and he's talking about protest. So apparently there's going to be another January the 6th. Once again, we can already tell by the algorithms for the January 6th committee that only 6% of the United States population put any confidence in the mainstream media. That is that 20 million people over 12 networks that even remotely watched any of the January 6th trial. And, for the most part, a lot of people are very skeptical, or at least question, at the very minimum, question the legitimacy of January 6th, the 6th. Only a very small portion of society puts any real confidence in January 6th. So apparently they're having to redouble their efforts. They need to make January 6th do like their BLM stuff, where they have ultimately worked against their own causes, their own special interest groups with their mass riots and stuff. So they have to go ahead and put on another performance, which appears to be these Trump protests. I meant whenever you listen to the media and listen to them try to explain it, it's really kind of fucking redundant for the most part. I mean, most of the news is kind of stupid, anyways. I mean, it's really really dumb. You have to be on some other kind of drugs to sit there and invest into media. But supposedly they're trying to arrest Trump on a misdemeanor, but charge it as a felony. At the same time, they plan on convicting Trump for certain felonies that they're trying to get him for, but charge him as misdemeanors. This makes absolutely no fucking sense. This is ass backwards, and this is why ultimately, whenever you're listening to these political experts and these mainstream media advocates sit there and try to explain some shit, the charade that's put on MSNBC from these scientific and political experts, these legal experts that come on these media programs, ultimately we can tell ultimately that it's a sham, that it's a bunch of bullshit. None of this shit makes any sense. Doesn't make any common legal sense. But ultimately, they'll keep on pushing these ridiculous narratives, dumbed down to the lowest common denominator. This is why only 1% of the population puts any real confidence in the mainstream media. This is why the total audience is at a staggering 6% of the country. Like I said, and a majority of that is either there to produce their own content or to mock them and make fun of them. and are very, very critical, skeptical of media stories. It's going to be interesting. It really is. Like I said, ultimately, Joe Biden has gotten more shit accomplished for conservatives than Trump could have. You know what I'm saying? Trump is was constantly caving to Democrats pushing their policy, their Keynesian economics with their stimulus money, printing out trillions and trillions of dollars of stimulus-free, cheap stimulus capital to put into the system. We know that Keynesian economics, Nazi Pelosi has been trying to push Keynesian economics ever since before Bush. Whenever they got in control of the Congress, whenever Bush was still running, they had planned that 2008 collapse to go ahead and push more Keynesian economics. It looks like that collapse is scheduled again. We'll see if the Republicans can go ahead and pass something more comprehensive, more conducive, ultimately cutting a lot of federal spending and trying to allocate some of that money to some of these failed ventures. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like I said, tax cuts are the way to go to fix the economy. I've said that for a while. Ultimately, you have a bunch of scam artists trying to push agendas and whatnot. And like I said, Biden, we have, like I said, you look at Biden and you look at Trump, passing the Keynesian economics, doing the federal mandates of the commie cough vaccine. He's the first one to actually implement them. You look at Joe Biden, they're passing legislation to probably go ahead and, abolish those mandates and whatnot. And, they're, currently trying to abolish the ATF. They're looking to push a more flat fare tax and whatnot. You have parents' rights bills coming out. You have more of these states starting to make a lot of their own policies. And so, ultimately, basically, Joe Biden has been, I guess, more, in this, like I said, yeah, he's went ahead and passed these ridiculous executive orders. We'll see how effective they are. If they don't get ruled unconstitutional, if they don't get pushed back, that would be nice. But ultimately, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like the old Bible says, the verse that's on my thing. The wise man, his heart is at his right hand, while the fool's heart's at his left, which means that you judge a person by his actions, not by what he says. Trump says a lot of the right things, but how much has he accomplished? How much has he done? Trump has pushed for red flag laws. He has went ahead and printed out stimulus money, been irresponsible in the regards of our own, economy and whatnot, causing, helping produce inflation by not going against the Congress, has shut down, has pushed mandates and whatnot. And while he has done a lot of good things or did some good things, he has done a lot of bad things too. So I meant, I'm apprehensive to say that I would probably jump on board full heartedly behind Donald Trump. And at the same time, while you're pointing the finger at under Slow Joe, we've gotten abortion repealed. Or we haven't gotten abortion repealed, but we've gotten Roe v. Wade appealed. We have ultimately, we have a lot of good legislation coming out currently right now that's being pushed. Ultimately, I can ultimately see people, more and more people starting to, and like I said, there yet again, I don't have no opinion. I don't care one way or the other. I don't have anything against, homosexual relationships or homosexual people as a whole, but I can already start to see them preparing people, and this is what happens whenever you got a lot of these leftists over there that follow blindly. Ultimately, it looks like the next step or the next objective is to go ahead and reverse the position on gay marriage. You got a lot of people that are not wanting, that are coming back and taking control of the education system, which we've needed for a while. More people are getting proactive in that respective. Um, And so we are seeing a lot of good things happen under the Joe Biden administrations, as much as we've seen a lot of bad things that were happening. Like I said, Trump never repealed any of the propaganda bills. And, Joe Biden is, it's not Joe Biden, it is the Republican led Congress, but they're starting to sit there and say, hey, should we abolish the ATF? Let's go ahead and do private school choice. Let's see if we can do something more affordable. Let's go ahead and revise some of this federal spending so we're not sitting there having to go ahead and inflate our economy and inflate our budgets. Let's go ahead and get rid of a lot of the NDAA and go ahead and see what works in this country and what doesn't work. And let's go ahead and get rid of a lot of these garbage, um, regulatory commissions that have no fucking real use, and go ahead and do something more practical in this country where, we can be more efficient in this country and, have more money in the private sector and, less money in the government sector. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I'm not saying that I won't vote for Trump. I'm not saying that I will vote for Trump. I'll probably go to the Trump rally just because, as far as I'm concerned, the low hanging fruit here is leftist journalism. It's leftist journalism. They're the soy boys. They're the cucks. So of course I'm probably going to go to this Trump rally in Waco, and it'll be fun to engage some of these leftist media shills that'll be there. Nothing more. And I need to get some Trump merch. I'll be honest with you. I need to get some Trump merch. Before I go, I need to get some MAGA shit. I need to get the MAGA flags. And I need to make myself ridiculous as I could possibly look. So whenever one of these left-leaning media shills goes ahead and decides that they're going to interview people and they're looking for a victim because they think that essentially, everybody, every Republican is exactly the same. They'll sit there and target me, and I can go ahead and make them regret every minute of their life. It'll be funny. It really will be. But anyways, yeah, you people tell me what you think. It looks like there's going to be another psychological operation. The media is going to sit there and run another false flag, which we know what they are. They're psychological operations. It's nothing more than a soap opera built for these, like I said, feminized young men and these Karens who watch The View to sit there and say, have an opinion, and to sit there and need somebody to point the finger at. Otherwise, they would be responsible for their own actions and their own positions in life. They need somebody to blame it on, and that's just leftism as a whole. However, I expect them to go ahead and run another January the 6th thing, where MAGA voters are going to be rioting, looting, and stuff. And they're probably not going to do it nationally. I don't know if it would work the same nationally. And like I said, for ultimately, the Trump base is not as big in 2024 as it was in 2016. A large reason why is that Trump was basically kicked off of Twitter, so he doesn't have that as big of a cult of. He still has a following. Don't get me wrong. The following is still bigger than Joe Biden's in reality. Regardless if I'm supporting Joe Biden, uh, being more conservative, and not saying that he was completely fucking horrible at all, saying that if his flat tax gets passed, or if this flat tax gets passed and the parents' rights bills gets passed, and you start to have more school privacy come out and stuff like that, under his administration, not blocking it, being more conducive for those policies and saying, hey, you know what, um, this is a good thing that's coming out of his administration, even supporting it. There's no way that Joe Biden's following would ever be as close as Trump's, but Trump's fucking cult of personality has diminished ultimately because he's no longer on Twitter, and to be honest with you, the base that's on Twitter isn't even close as what it was in 2016. You're not seeing the same kind of traffic, the same kind of reactions. here on Twitter or on the internet, on YouTube, on Facebook. It's just not the same. The traffic's not the same. So ultimately, the cult of personality is kind of harder. The divide and conquer strategy that they're trying to implement with the MAGA and the left and the State Department and all this stuff. The dividing isn't equal. It never was equal, anyways. Like I said, most people are going to gravitate towards the center than they are going to be towards the commie of the left, anyways. And even their own party doesn't want to have anything to do with the progressives and the commies on the left. So it wouldn't break away even on that perspective of communism and nationalism like it did in Germany. It just wouldn't break away equally. But with that being said, it's beginning because whenever you start to ban everybody on the internet for generic shit, for made up shit, for not going along with your ridiculous, stupid, dumbed down to the lowest common denominator narratives, like your commie cough and your election interference that was completely fucking obvious, and the other shit. Whenever you start to ban everybody for your conjecture because they're not going along with your conjecture because it's idiotic. It's myopic, isn't that what you? It's myopic, ain't that what you say to us? You don't understand nuance. And more intelligent people are not allowed to interact and engage and give their thoughts and critiques of your ridiculous, stupid narratives. Whenever you've banned most of society, well then ultimately you're not having enough people interact with your narratives, and it's going to be uh, ineffective. I guess is the best word to put it. It's not going to be as effective as it was in 2016, whenever there was more of an audience right there, and just more of the audience disagreed with your position than agreed with it. You just couldn't get enough people on the left side. So, yeah, now there's like very few people engaged. It's not even close to being uh, organic enough to go ahead and carry an actual narrative. The internet is just too synthetic right now. So this is why the Trump movement, while he still has a pretty big base, it's just not going to have the same kind of effect as it did in 2016. He needs all the help that he can get. And currently, since the internet is kind of broken, I just don't see how this is going to work out and be as polarizing as it was in 2016. Most people see this as becoming to be redundant and a waste of fucking time. And I think that more and more people getting closer to the election in 2024 will start to sit there and say, you know what, the problem isn't Republican or Democrat. It's becoming the federal government. And they're going to start questioning, really what is the point of having a federal government if this is always what it leads to, into the banking collapses, into these natural disasters, into all these shootings. If you can't go ahead and, I pay taxes to live in a civilized society, and if society isn't looking as civilized, then why do we have a federal government? We could just ultimately get rid of them, go back to legislating ourselves at the state level, and we could just go ahead and get rid of the federalized government at all. So, I mean, it's an act of desperation. It's a Hail Mary. Let's go ahead and do another psychological operation. Let's go ahead and say it's Trumpers rioting and looting in these cities. And let's go ahead and paint the Republicans up as the new BLM. And the MAGA movement is now the ones. And we'll expose how hypocritical the Republicans are as they defend their saying that they're mostly peaceful and doing all the other shit in our propaganda, even though the BLM members would say the same damn thing. They're agent provocateurs, even though at the same time they're sitting there advocating for burning down, looting, and doing that to their cities. And that's where we have the disconnection. The conservatives tend to go ahead and say, you know what, let's go ahead and protest peacefully. Let's go ahead and make our case much like MLK. And they do not agree and encourage any kind of rioting, but they point out that it's agent provocateurs. And like I said, it's the same shit It's just a different narrative, and we've seen this play out over and over again. It's time to move on from all this mainstream media bullshit and just let the mainstream media go ahead and die the slow death that they probably need to die. So, anyways, you people tell me what you think. Like, sub, do the shit YouTube and Facebook tell me to do to get over. And for now, I'm out.